Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Money and Change. My name is Ira Robinson. As always, we're here with Stu Shear. Hello, Stu.
Hi, Ira. How you doing today?
It's been a day.
It's been a day, but it's been a sunny day here.
I have been enjoying the nice weather, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, and I'll tell you what, right now, I think my temperature is saying 78 degrees outside. We've never had that in February. What's going on?
Global
And that
cooling
thing isn't even in the sun.
Global cooling my butt.
Yeah. Okay, Al Gore, you liar. We got you on this one. All righty. Well, hey, we've got some shout outs today. As usual, we do the University of Findlay at www.findlay.edu. Matter of fact, I was up in Findlay twice this week for basketball. And I check on the progress at different buildings and so forth under construction. And the School of Business or the College of Business is really coming along. It's going to be a beautiful, nice, big building. It's going to be a great addition to campus. And also, I saw two excellent basketball games. I've never seen the Findlay guys score 200 points, almost 200 points, I'll put it that way, in two games. They played Tiffin University on Thursday and won 105-87. And then they played Ashland University, which is they're both Division II schools, NCAA, and they beat Ashland by 85-65. I mean, that's putting some points up there.
That's some serious footwork.
Oh yeah, some serious footwork, and a big shout out to Charlie Ernst, the coach there. He's been there for 20 years as the assistant coach. And he's been the head coach, I think, for about the last 6. So he's doing pretty good. And, I'd like to have a shout out to Late Night in the Midlands and Mike Vera. Excellent programming, excellent shows. Of course, we have the Open Eyes Network. And we have somebody that's an author there of about 9 or 10 books. I just can't figure out how they do it.
It's not easy, but it's fun.
How do you do it?
I kind of close my eyes and hope that it turns out okay.
Thank God you don't play darts that way.
Indeed.
Oh, boy. Well, hey, at least you're successful in that realm of writing. I can only do 9-page Wrinkle City Gazette once a month, I have some drawbacks into writing long things, I guess it's short-term memory. But anyhow, another shout out goes to Show Us, Don't Tell Us, Skills and Papa Bear. You get us together on Skype and oh my God, the conversation goes on forever and ever and ever. And we chat just about twice a week. So they have an excellent show. And so I got to give them a shout out. Also, Dabu77 Underground World News. We've got something to talk about today towards the end of the show that'll make the hair stand up on the back of your neck. So you better get some paper and pencil ready to take some notes. Well, before we get started, we always do a disclaimer, and the information contained in this presented material is from the posting of news agencies on the internet and are not necessarily the views or opinions of the owners of this program. We are not responsible for and expressly disclaim all liability for damages of any kind arising out of use, reference to, or reliance on any information contained in this broadcast. The information provided is not offered as financial advice, financial planning, or for investment purposes, so you want to use this information at your own risk. Now, from the currency chart today at 4 o'clock, the euro stayed the same as last week at $1.06. The Great British Pound dropped a penny to $1.24 to the US dollar. The Australian dollar and the Canadian dollar stayed the same at 76 cents. The Swiss franc dropped 0.1 cent. Last week they were at 99.9 cents. They're down to 99.7 cents to the US dollar. Well, of course, the Japanese yen still stays at 8.8 cents to the I'm sorry, it's 008.8. I mean, it's not even a penny, people. I mean, if you go over there with bucks, you're going to be worth some money. The Japanese yen hasn't been high at all for a long time. The Chinese yuan still stayed the same at 14.5 cents. The Kuwaiti dinar is still at $3.27. The Vietnamese dong, well, the wheelbarrow is getting heavier and heavier. Last week it was 22,670.59 dong in the wheelbarrow to the US dollar. Now it's 22,716.94 dong to the dollar. So the wheelbarrow is getting a little bit heavy. Bitcoin. We've always talked about getting Bitcoin because it's volatile. Last week it was $972.78 to the Bitcoin. And now it's $1,049.74 to the Bitcoin. So I wonder where it's going to be next week. Who knows? And just remember, you might have Bitcoin, but if something electronic happens, you may not have Bitcoin. It's just numbers in the air. And if you lose them, they're gone. Just remember Mount Gox, G-O-X, and that incident. Well, you take a look at gold. Gold's getting a little bit more expensive. 3 weeks ago, we had $1,215.98 an ounce. Last week, it went up to $1,231.21 an ounce. And now it's $1,234.94 an ounce. I have a feeling that people are getting a little skittish due to the economy and things going on in the world.
That's what it seems, yeah.
And they're kind of hedge to protect themselves. And this isn't a hedge fund. This is a solid investment. And, it's like I told Skills and Papa Bear earlier in the week. Gerald Salenti was saying, let's remember guns, gold, and getaway. And he says, if things really get bad, I'm going to Canada. And from Canada, I'm going elsewhere. And he says, I'm going to take my guns with me. Well, how do you get guns into Canada? They don't let them come in. Well, then what do you do with your gold? How do you declare that going in? And then where do you go after that? He seems to have it all thought out, but he's saying that things are going to get bad, and that's one of his things as far as bailout. You take a look at silver. Now, silver was $17.67 an ounce last week. It's now up to $17.99. People are saying that once it gets over $18, it's really going to take off. Do you want to buy more silver? Hey, that's up to you. It's like I tell people, pay down your debt first. Put some money aside second. Buy a lot of long-term food, freeze-dried or whatever. Have water that you can purify and have water on hand. The other thing is have your medications and vitamins. That's important. If everything goes south in the handbasket, in other words, we have an SHTF situation, and the hooey hits the fan, as we call it in the Midwest, you want to make sure that you have things paid down, money aside, long-term food, water, and your medications. Because who knows, it might be weeks, if not months, literally, before things can happen to where people can survive again. And I've been preaching this for almost 4 years. Matter of fact, next month it will be 4 years. We still haven't had a recession, but I think there's one coming. We take a look at platinum. Last week, platinum was at $1,015.92 an ounce. It's $1,003.35 an ounce. It's gone down a little bit. Palladium, it went up a little bit, like up about $6. It's now at $777.03 an ounce. So if you're going to invest in currency, you really want to take at value where you're going to get it. If you're going to get things at APMEX, hey, that's fine. There's Kitco. I found another one out there called silver.com. You really want to research those companies so that you know that, number one, when the product is delivered, you have to sign for it. It just isn't dumped in your mailbox.
Yeah.
Or they don't leave it on the front porch.
That's more than a little disturbing, I'll say.
Right now, hey, gold. It's what?
I said that's more than a little disturbing when that kind of thing occurs.
Oh, disturbing isn't the word. I mean, if you have a little coin here, a little coin there, yeah, it's disturbing, but it's not like getting a box that weighs about 5 pounds full of silver. You know, I mean, that's disturbing. You want to make sure that it's signed off on. Now you take a look at APMEX. Gold right now, they're asking $1,237.30 an ounce, and it just went down $5.60. Silver, they're asking $18.05, and it went down 10 cents an ounce. And of course, platinum was $1,005.30 an ounce. It went down $9.40. And palladium dropped about $15.50. These prices go up and down, I don't know how many seconds. It's about 20 seconds in between trades and stuff. And it's scary. It really is. If you're going to go and do day trading or something like that, you really have to know your stuff because you're competing against computers. 1 second it may be up, and a couple seconds later it's way down. Now, if you take a look at gold, we had a lot of gold being held in the United States. And we had the World Trade Center deal where, 3 buildings just mysteriously crumbled to the ground after planes supposedly hit them. Where was the gold that was in the basement stored? Where did it go? Who knows? That was a question I was asking Skills and Papa Bear, and we were postulating as to what happened. Did it go to Fort Knox, or did it go someplace else? Or was there still some down in the hole after everything collapsed? Who knows? But there were vaults there. Well, according to Simon Black at sovereignman.blog, the world's second largest stockpile of gold leaves the United States. And he said, about 20 years ago, when I was still a cadet at West Point, my economics professor organized a class trip to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. The part of the trip that I remember most was touring the Fed's high security vault 80 feet below street level beneath the bank's main office building downtown. This vault houses the largest known depository of gold in the world. And none of that gold, of course, belongs to the Fed. The Federal Reserve doesn't own a single ounce of gold. Almost all of that gold is owned by foreign governments and central banks. And it's been this way since the end of World War II. And, even after the Soviet Union fell, most governments still chose to keep their gold in New York. It was safe. America was rich. It was a trusted ally. So why bother moving it? Well, then you go fast forward a couple decades, and the world has changed, and the U.S. government is up to its eyeballs in debt. It's been caught blatantly spying on its own allies, and it is much less predictable than ever before. So Germany was the first out the door, and even as early as 2013, the government of Germany announced that they would bring back at least half of their country's gold reserves, which was the second largest in the world, and they would do it by the end of 2020. Well, they're ahead of schedule. Late last week, the German government moved $13 billion worth of gold from the New York bank to Frankfurt. And that shipment puts them nearly at their goal almost 4 years earlier than planned. And it's easy to understand why, according to Simon. The entire global financial system requires having a great deal of trust. And if you have an online brokerage account, you may be surprised to know that you don't actually own a single stock in your portfolio. When you log into your account and buy, well, let's just say Apple shares, the brokerage will typically register those shares in its own name and not yours. Apple has no idea where you are. The shares are effectively owned by your broker. It's their asset and not yours. Now that's putting a lot of trust in a complete stranger. It's the same when you deposit money in your bank. It's no longer your money. It's the bank's money. The bank, in turn, uses your savings to make loans and buy bonds, and entrusting your savings to yet another group of people. And this is how the system works. Your money keeps getting passed around, which means there's an entire daisy chain of other people, or what they call counterparties, standing between you and your savings. Well, what's a counterparty risk? Well, it's the risk that something goes wrong with one of many, many counterparties in the daisy chain. Now, let's imagine you deposit money with X, and X invests the money with Y. Then Y deposits the money with Z. If something goes wrong with Z, you're all screwed. This is the nature of a counterparty risk, and someone far down the chain can cause consequences for everybody else. Well, now, ordinarily, this isn't a problem, but when the system is functioning normally, institutional counterparty risk is low. But counterparty risk becomes a big deal and quickly when the system stops functioning normally. And we saw those effects, according to Simon Black, during the 2008 financial crisis. As one bank went down, it dragged multiple others with it. No one ever thinks about counterparty risk until it becomes a problem, and by then it's too late. And the simple way to reduce this risk is to reduce the number of counterparties. You know, Germany used to place a lot of trust in the U.S. government and central bank to store its gold. But there are obvious signs that Uncle Sam is no longer the reliable, credible, trusted counterparty he once was. Now, Germany hasn't quit cold turkey. They're still going to store a minority portion of the gold in the U.S., but they have taken a major step to reduce exposure to a counterparty that's obviously bankrupt, which reduces the risk. You can do the same thing, and that's why you want to discuss holding physical cash. Keeping some physical cash ensures that there's no more middleman, in other words, counterparties, standing between you and at least a portion of your savings. When you eliminate the counterparty, you eliminate the risk. Having some cash means that if some major crisis should ever befall the banking system, then you'll have at least some emergency saving that's not at risk. But even if nothing happens, according to Simon Black, even if there's never a single problem or ever again in the banking system, you won't be worse off for holding cash. Now, personally, I think they're bringing gold back to Germany because of the exposure that Deutsche Bank has. Remember, they were laying off people, they were closing bank branches. That's scary. And Deutsche Bank goes under, they're tied in with a lot of other banks. And we could go back to 2008 or worse. Do you think I'm right on that one?
Could be.
You mean I'm right for once?
Could be. It
Could
happens.
be. Oh, an easy answer. Could be.
It happens.
Okay. Okay, you get the silver star today. Well, you know, I've been telling people, hey, put some money aside on it, and I mean it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Every time I go to the ATM to pray to the genie god that there's money in there, that I can go get a pizza or something, or go to a basketball game. I mean, my God, the kid I was with yesterday, real good kid. I mean, really great. I mean, he's a smart student, but boy, does that guy like to eat. I told his dad, I said, give him some money for different things, but I'll go ahead and pay for his dinner, and I'll pay for snacks and stuff. Holy cow, to go to that game, I get in free. I had to pay $5 for him. But my God, by the time we got done with everything, it was like $75. I mean, that kid can inhale so much stuff. It's pathetic. He likes pizza. And boy, was he going at it. He'd watch the game, and then when the halftime came between the girls' game and the guys' game, or, anywhere in between, there was a break. Man, he was heading for pizza. If I had air shocks in the car, I think I'd have to pump it up a little bit just to get home.
Yeah.
But yeah, Cameron's a cool kid. He's a good sports fan and plays basketball and stuff. Oh, Jesus, he liked to pork it down. Oh my God, if I did that, I wouldn't be able to get in my car, let alone, oh geez, it was something else. Well, anyhow, we tell people to put some money aside. If you have some spare money left over, get some gold and silver, the physical stuff that you can hold on to. You want to make sure you can hold on to it in a safe place.
Exactly. Again, don't, I would say not to get mail order things and just have them dropped in your mailbox.
Oh, the latest things that they're finding here is people find a house that's vacant, and then they have drugs sent to the house and pick it up before, the postman delivers it, and then they pick it up. And
yep.
I'm like, holy cow, and you could just imagine if somebody sees the postman leaving a box by your front door, and suddenly the box disappears, and they have already sent it in that it's been delivered, and you're not home.
Kind of reminds me of the squirrel apocalypse. There's a, I know it sounds strange, but there's actually a thing where squirrels have been attacking people after they have gotten a hold of things like crack and meth, because drug dealers tend to bury them in like gardens and that kind of thing. And the squirrels, they dig it up and they end up eating the drugs and go absolutely insane. So people are now calling it the squirrel apocalypse because of the heavy use of drugs that these things are doing.
And I thought it was bad when the squirrel just crawled into the big transformer supply station for the city's power grid and decided to nibble on a cable and got fried. Took out the power for half the town.
Isn't that how the Eastern Seaboard went down too?
Yeah. Those crazy squirrels, they're on drugs. They'll do anything.
Exactly. I know you were going to talk about infrastructure here in a little while too, right?
Yeah. Oh man, let's have a little fun. Let's chew on this power cable.
Exactly.
And see light up,
Exactly.
Oh, talk about wanting to meet Jesus. That's a quick way to do it. Well, anyhow, have you ever heard of the country Kyrgyzstan?
I have. That's over there by what's it, Stan?
I thought it was close to Banana Stand myself.
It might be over there where Who Cares It Stan might be as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Actually, it's over in the old Soviet Union. Yeah. And the central bank governor is urging the citizens to own gold. And he said gold can be stored for a long time, and despite the price fluctuations on internal markets, it doesn't lose its value for the population as a means of savings. And the central bank governor, Tolkunbek, Abdigulov said, "I'll try to turn the dream into reality faster." And it's a landlocked nation between China and Kazakhstan, and it's embarking on an experiment with little parallel worldwide, shifting savings from cattle to gold, according to Bloomberg. And one of the first post-Soviet republics to adopt a new currency and let it trade freely, Kyrgyzstan's central bank wants every citizen to diversify into gold. And that governor, I'm not going to mention his name again because I'll get tongue twisted. Actually, it's Tolkunbek Abdigulov, hey, that's pretty good, says his dream is for every one of the 6 million citizens to own at least 100 grams or 3.5 ounces of the precious metal in the Central Asian country's biggest export. And in 2 years, the central bank has offered bars directly to the population. About 140 kilograms of bullion have been sold. We're hopeful that our country's population will learn to diversify its savings into assets that are more liquid and, more importantly, capable of retaining their value. Yeah, I can imagine, what do you do with cattle if they suddenly die off? Your investment just all went into hamburger. If they eat hamburger there, I don't know. But he said that for Kyrgyzstan, gold is an alternative instrument of investment, and the National Bank has ensured liquidity for gold, and we aren't only selling, but also buying back gold bars that we produced and sold. And these somewhat blasphemous words from a central banker echo the thoughts of no lesser a person than Alan Greenspan. Remember him?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
didn't really care for him too much.
Yeah, I know, but one time somebody asked Goldspan, is gold really a good investment? And he said, yes. Remember that we're looking at gold as a currency. It is still, by all evidence, a premier currency. No fiat currency, in other words, paper money, including the dollar, can match it. And he went on to say that European central banks, I believe, about allocating their gold sales, which occurred when gold prices were falling down, has been renewed this year with a statement that gold serves a very important place in monetary reserves. And the question really is, why do central banks put money into an asset which is no rate of return, but cost of storage and insurance and everything else like that? Why are they doing that? If you look at the data, with a very few exceptions, all of the developed countries have gold reserves. And every time you get really serious questions, the 50% of the gold price determination begins to move. Well, Greenspan was really right on that one. I mean, why in the heck do we ever go to a fiat currency? Beats the heck out of me.
There was definitely profit to be made through that. I think it made the looting of the system easier to do, to be honest with you.
Looting?
I do. I think that's what it is.
Including rape and pillage?
A little bit of that too, yeah.
Wow. I wonder what
you ever have to pay taxes? Yeah, that's a little bit of raping and pillaging going on right there.
Ooh, yeah. Well, now you know that some of the biggest European banks are embarking on a mother of all debt binges, according to Don Quixones of wolfstreet.com. I wonder if that's his real name. Well, anyhow, he's saying Spain's biggest banks, Banco Santander, and we talked about them way back when, and CaixaBank, that's CAIXA, and they've been issuing 8.6 billion euros in new debt, 7 times the amount they sold during the same period last year, according to the report. And the last time they were rolled out so much debt was in 2007, the year that Spain's spectacular real estate bubble reached its peak. Wow, we're going back into history here. This new class of bail-inable debt was cooked up last year by French-based financial engineers in order to help France's 4 global systematically important banks like BNP Paribas, Crédit Agricole Group, BPCE, and Societe Generale out of a very serious quandary: how to satisfy spending European and global regulations demanding such larger capital and debt buffers without having to pay investors costly returns on the billions of euros of funds they lend them to do so. Scheming again. Are we going to have 2008 all over again in Europe? Could be.
You might be on the right track with thinking that, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I don't want another 2008. 2008 was not a good year. Neither was 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012. And when do we start really almost come out of it? 2015, maybe? It's scary. And what's getting scarier, Brian Chapata from Bloomberg.com had an article this week. America's biggest creditors dump treasuries in warning to Trump. And it says, in the age of Trump, America's biggest foreign creditors are suddenly having second thoughts about financing the U.S. government. In Japan, the largest holder of treasuries, investors culled their stakes in December by the most in almost 4 years. And what's striking is the selling has persisted at a time when going abroad has rarely been so attractive. And it's not just the Japanese. Foreigners are pulling back the U.S. debt like never before. From Tokyo, Beijing, and London, the consensus is clear. Few overseas investors want to step into a 13.9 trillion U.S. Treasury market right now. Whether it's the prospect of bigger deficits and more inflation under President Trump, or higher interest rates from the Federal Reserve, the world's safest debt market seems less of a sure thing, particularly after the upswing in yields since November. You know, if China wants to get rid of their treasuries, which they're doing, I mean, they're actually selling down their treasuries. To who? I don't know. They might be selling them back to the U.S. government for that matter. And when you sell them back, what happens to the gold? It leaves Fort Knox. It's scary. You know, my gut feeling is that Trump is going to inherit all the problems caused by the previous POTUS, who I will call the ex-POTUS.
See, and that's what I was saying before the election even happened, is that if Trump got in, I think one of the things that they're trying to do is to hold off the financial issues until after he got into office. And then once he got into office, let the bubbles go, you know, because then he's the one that gets the blame for it all.
And that's what you call the begottting of the president. You'll have to look that up biblically. So I did learn something in school. We won't mention it on air because there are too many kids that might be listening. So anyhow, look up the begotting of the presidency. In other words, it started with more than likely Nixon begottting Ford and Ford begottting everybody else and everybody else down the line. And more than likely, the ex-POTUS left a few landmines for the new POTUS to step on, from what I'm hearing. And that's kind of scary. And, you know, with all the taxes that we collected $1,084,840,000,000 in taxes through January. And that's $7,133 per worker. The feds still run a deficit of $156,939,000,000, according to CNSU's news.com. They still run a deficit. My God, if we had deficits like that, we'd be in jail.
Yep.
Well, right now I'm looking at the usdebtclock.org. And if you go to moneyandchange.weebly.com, you can see that. And it's updating every second. And the U.S. national debt right now is $19,977,274,275,76,77,78,80. Oh, God, it's flying. That's $61,554 per citizen. And the debt per taxpayer is $166,766. Gee, I'm in retirement. I never make that stuff.
And I remember when we first started doing the show, it was about $162,000.
Yeah. So now we're up to $166,000, almost $167,000. I mean, you know, our tax revenue keeps going up. And your payroll tax is going up, and your corporate tax is up. And you look at everything right now, you know, we've got 124,786,725,000 workers. We've got 27,405,374 part-time workers. But we've got 94,382,972 not in the labor force. Not in the labor force. We've got 513,508 foreclosures. We've got 42,661,635 people living in poverty. We've got 31,397,727 people without insurance. But there's some good news from what I heard on insurance. I believe that President Trump has told the IRS not to ding people if they don't have insurance, which means you may not have a fine to pay. Something to consider. Check the executive orders that have been written by Trump. And you might be able to find that. I've seen it in a couple of sources, and they might say we're not going to do things a certain way. They're not going to be as strict. If so, that's fine. Talk to your tax professional if you're going to have your taxes prepared. They're going to give you the final say-so as what's allowable and what's not allowable according to the way that they think. I'm not a tax professional. I just read the stories that are presented out there. And hopefully by passing them on, it'll help you guys out there. And if you want to check into different things, go back to moneyandchange.weebly.com. There's a lot of information there. Tell your friends about the page. Actually, it's a series of pages. All kinds of information. It even has videos on it for different things. It's worth going to. Now, here's another source that I found, Kiplinger.com. And Dan Burrows wrote a story there. 3 reasons Warren Buffett is dumping Wal-Mart stock. He said Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway is falling out of love with Wal-Mart stores. It sold the majority of its holdings in the world's largest retailer last year. In the final 3 months of 2016 alone, according to Berkshire's latest filing, that was the 13-F filing, with the Securities and Exchange Commission, Buffett trimmed his Walmart holdings to 1.4 million shares from 13 million shares at the end of September, with an ownership stake of just 0.05%. He's no longer a major shareholder of Wal-Mart. Well, Buffett doesn't comment on his investment moves, so his reasons for selling so much of his Wal-Mart position remain kind of, blurry. But for buy and hold investors, Berkshire's disaffection with the blue chip company can be instructive nonetheless. And you have three reasons to think about when Buffett did that. Number one is stiff competition. And the main reason Buffett is abandoning Walmart is that it's losing out to Amazon.com. And that's according to David Kass. That's Kass. And that's a professor at the University of Maryland's Smith School of Business who studies Buffett and his Berkshire shareholder. The trend is not a friend. And the report says e-commerce sales are growing faster than sales at January brick and mortar retailers and should continue to do so. And in January, non-store retailers enjoyed year-over-year sales gains of 14.5%, according to the Census Bureau. Furniture stores, electronic stores, sporting goods stores, and department stores all suffered declines. Walmart is investing in e-commerce in order to ride the wave. But Amazon is still the leader. Well, Berkshire, according to the report, is cutting his losses. And, when he first went into Walmart stock in 2005, I'll put it that way, he has amassed more than 60 million shares by the end of 2015. And that was a 2% ownership stake. But the investment proved to be largely disappointing, and Walmart shares have gained 32% on a price basis since mid-2005. Well, an analyst at Stifel, S-T-I-F-E-L, have hold recommendations on Walmart shares today. At best, Stifel analysis forecast moderate share gains, assuming Walmart can improve online and mobile ordering and increase organic grocery offerings. I mean, I admit I go to Wally World maybe once a week. But sometimes, when you're doing Christmas shopping, you just have to take the binge and use Amazon. I'm not saying one's better than the other, but it's easier to sit in your home and go through things online, and you know what they are, and you can find the best prices out there. And sometimes Wally World just doesn't have it. Here's another one that came out from Mike Snyder at the Economic Collapse blog this week. He said 11 deeply alarming facts about America's crumbling infrastructure. Ever go on the interstate and you have potholes and more potholes and bridges are crumbling? You go across major bridges across major rivers. They're old bridges. No new ones.
You feel the sway as you go across.
Oh, hey, yeah, that's part of the fun. And then you notice that you're 40 feet above the Ohio River and the bridge sways a little bit. And you try walking across one of those bridges. They have walkways on the side.
Not a fun experience.
Oh, no, you never want to do that. But, Snyder's saying, hey, the infrastructure is crumbling. Whatever happened to those shovel-ready jobs? Remember when Obama came in?
Yep.
What happened to them?
Spent over, what was it? Almost $149 billion on shovel-ready jobs that didn't exist.
Yeah. So who was he paying off? Buddies? People that gave him some money during the campaign. I believe there was Solyndra was one of the companies
that was the biggest one, yeah.
Took the big money.
Folded like 2 weeks later.
Yeah. I mean, that should be investigated, and somebody ought to be going to jail on that one. Shovel-ready jobs, that's a bunch of shovel-ready hooey.
It's shovel-ready something, exactly.
Yeah, it's shovel-ready, all right. Well, according to the American Road and Transportation Builders Association, nearly 56,000 bridges in the United States are currently structurally deficient. What makes that number even more chilling is the fact that vehicles cross those bridges a total of 185 million times a day. Well, if the federal government paid to put those bridges in through the Department of Transportation funds, and they just are left to rot, that is disgusting. The second thing is one out of every 4 bridges in the United States is more than 50 years old and have never had major reconstruction work.
Yep.
America doesn't have a single airport that is considered to be in the top 25 in the world.
Nope. And we're supposed to be the best for everything, right? I mean, that's the perception of things. The United States is number 1 in everything.
Which finger?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep, number 1 in everything. And that's what they keep saying, but we really aren't. We're not number 1 in healthcare. We used to be, probably in the top 10, but not anymore. We've got problems with roads. We've got problems with bridges. We have dam problems.
We're not even number 1 for the amount of individual freedoms that people have. We're on like number 25 or 26 on the list.
What's number 1?
Number 1 is Hong Kong, actually, of all things.
Holy cow. Switzerland's got to be up there.
They're up there, yeah.
You know, I mean, The only thing of it is their country operates on 3 different languages. Swiss, German, and French. Actually 4. Italian.
Yeah.
Depends on where you are as to what you speak. That'd be kind of difficult. Maybe they use hand gestures in the parliament to express satisfaction or dissatisfaction. But, you know, you take a look at the age of American dams, 52 years old. You take a look at California, the Ottoville Dam. Spillway, the highest spillway in the United States. And it crumbled. The state of California knew about it for 12 years and didn't do jack.
And people are saying, well, why doesn't Trump do anything about this? Why is he spending $20 billion on the wall, but he hasn't done anything to help out this dam? Really? California's known about it for 12 years plus, right?
And the feds told him about it. The problem of it is California probably took the money and put it into the aliens.
Yeah.
You know, and if I was Trump, I'd say, okay, you know, we'll give you some money to help you out, but these are the conditions that have to be met.
Not only that, but it comes into things like states' rights. You know, the Fed just can't walk into a state and say, we're going to take this project over, whether you like it or not. They have to get the permission of the state. And if the state doesn't want to do anything about it, well, then that's the state's problem. That's not the Fed's problem, right?
That's
There's
right.
only so much that he can do because of the distinction between the states and the feds.
And usually in a lot of states, the dams are part of the state.
Right, exactly.
Situation.
That's what I mean. Yeah, they're maintained by usually the Department of Natural Resources in the state.
Right. And like here, in the Miami Conservancy District, there are several dams that were built. I think there were like 6 dams, maybe 8, because of the 1903 flood that we had that wiped out a lot of Dayton and points south. Well, you know, those are kept up, and we're taxed for that. They have to maintain those dams.
Right.
Because we don't want the dam water coming down and flooding the city.
The damn water coming down into the damn city, right?
City, that's right. That's right. Well, anyhow, You know, you take a look at the U.S. Department of Transportation, 2/3 of our roads are in dire need of repairs or upgrades. And according to the report, it says in order to completely fix all of our roads and bridges, it would take $808 billion. So all of that shovel-ready money wouldn't have even covered the reconstruction. And we're already in debt by almost $20 trillion. And you take a look at Flint, Michigan, water pipe, sewer system, water treatment facilities. Hey, it's bad news.
Another situation that people are trying to toss into Trump's lap, and it's like, nope, that's a state problem.
That's it. Problem. You can always go back and say, hey, remember that shovel-ready job stuff that they told us? Why didn't they do that? I mean, that's just incompetence.
Exactly.
On the part of the federal government. You know, you give a politician, you give them trust, you put them into office that they will do things. And what do? They insider trade, they do everything else. I don't want to say all of them do that, but a good portion of them
do. It's crony capitalism at its finest, you know?
Yeah, that's the word, crony capitalism. And according to Jesse from Jesse's Cafe Americain blog, he says, these are times of general corruption. And he said, when historians look back on this period of the last 40 years and diagnose what went wrong, they might do worse than to conclude that at the root of it was a general failure of character from the top down. The replacing of honor and duty with egoism and greed as the most honored of civic virtues was a long and slow process. And they made political corruption, which heretofore had been hidden in the closets, very fashionable. And according to Jesse, he says, the crux of the problem is the huge imbalance between corporate power and the ability of workers to achieve increasing wages. And without increasing wages, broader aggregate demand in the form of consumption cannot be sustained. He goes on to say it was sustained during a long period of wage stagnation by innovative debt instruments associated with the housing bubble. And the fraud that they helped to perpetuate was conscious and premeditated, and the crafted specific financial offerings were toward that purpose. However, in the aftermath of the housing bubble collapse, the ability and willingness of the average American to go into debt for ordinary consumption is reluctant, to say the least. People are still using their credit cards. Pay them off. Put some money aside.
Using credit cards to pay the credit cards.
Oh, yeah.
I know many people that do exactly that.
And where do they end up?
Destitute very quickly, actually.
Oh, I thought destitutes worked on corners in big cities. Oh, wrong word. Maybe they're sidewalk stewardesses. I don't know. According to Johnny Carson, he used to call them sidewalk stewardesses.
Yep.
Well, maybe that might go for politicians too. But according to Jesse, he says, I find the current political situation to be as bad as I thought it would be when I forecasted it about 10 years ago, and the worst is yet to come. The corruption in the system is becoming much more apparent. The extreme biases of the mainstream media in favor of their particular owner's faction is fairly obvious. This is nothing new, and indeed it resembles the America of the past more than most people realize. Our education is slanted and poor, and our national self-image is a masterpiece of public relations. And this is the most sluggish recovery we've seen in modern times. But since it has a bipartisan stamp, it's difficult for some to wrap their politically black and white heads around it. And that's true. There's a lot of corruption out there, and hopefully Trump can stop some of the corruption. Well, now for the biggie. Superstation 95, get your paper and pencil out. They said tactical nuke detonation or large reactor incident in Russian Arctic around the Kara Sea. They said a massive spike in radioactive iodine-131 over Scandinavia has sent governments scrambling to find the cause. Radiation monitors are recording 4 times the increases in radioactive iodine-131, which can only come from either a nuclear bomb test or a reactor accident. The nuclear half-life of iodine-131 is 8 days. So this is an absolutely recent incident. And the U.S. sent up a Boeing C-135. I believe they called it a Phoenix to sniff it out. It's called Constant Phoenix. And it could be that Russia detonated a nuclear bomb in violation of the Test Ban Treaty, or they could have a naval reactor accident in a place called Novaya Zemlya. Boy, my Russian is even getting good. Novaya-Zemlya. My gut feeling is what happened was they had a nuclear accident on a sub. The sub had to surface and they had to vent. And when they vented, they probably put some of that iodine in the air.
You could very well be on the right track with that. I know I've had family that's been involved with nuclear subs, and that is something that is definitely possible to have happen.
Yeah, and they have to vent it.
Yep.
And so, so what happens? You take a look at things. The stuff is all over Europe. And it has an 8-day half-life. And in 16 days, it's probably gone. But it's probably in your body because you breathed it. It probably is on the plants that you're going to eat. So, one source that I looked at after this, they said be stocked with several months worth of food, gas, use stable in the gas, by the way, and personal items. Check that you have what you need for your water purification and power generation. Be ready with a container of heirloom seeds and uncontaminated soil for long-term survival. If you need medicines, obtain and store as many of them as you can. Plan for the day when you can't easily order anything you want online, let alone get to a store. Store everything in a safe place so you can avoid being in the wrong place at the wrong time during a national or localized crisis. And if our country experiences a war or nuclear catastrophe, make sure your escape plan has been communicated to your family and know how you'll contact your family if cell phone and internet communications are dead. Do you have a GMRS radio? Better get one. Better get 2. You got to have somebody to talk to. I just noticed that, I forget, Midland, I think, came out with a 40-watt GMRS radio. And you pay for a license for like 5 years, and I've got one. And that 40-watt unit is like, oh, yeah, I might get my fingers onto that.
Yeah, they're pretty nice.
They just came out with it, and I'm thinking, okay, and they have repeaters, and you can talk to people through the repeaters. And they're already built into the GMRS radios.
Right, exactly.
So I'm kind of toying with that, but they're about $245 through Amazon. And I don't think you can buy them through Wally World. Well, so much for the seriousness. Let's get down to a little humor. Sliding down the banister of life. Well, transvestite. It's a guy who likes to eat, drink, and be merry. Another one, my mind works like lightning. One brilliant flash and it's gone. That happened today before the show, didn't
it? Yeah.
The only time the world beats a path to your door is when you're in the bathroom. It's always amazing when you're visiting the porcelain pope and the phone rings. You can't move. You are stuck there.
Yep.
And then you listen to the recording. And it's like, okay. And your girlfriend might be hollering, where the heck are you? Yeah, sorry, I'm in the John. Like, hey, man, I'm in the can, It always happens. It always happens. A friend of mine that I knew installed a phone in the bathroom, literally. Now, I'd hate to pick up when you're in the shower because you might have a very moving experience. Well, here's another one. I hate sex in the movies. Tried it once. The seat folded up, the drink spilled, and the ice, well, it literally chilled the mood.
Yeah, it does that quickly.
Yeah, well, it used to be only death and taxes, and now, of course, there's shipping and handling too. And with that, that's all I've got this week, Ira. Like I tell people, check out moneyandchange.weebly.com. There's a lot of stuff in there. If you like a little humor, there's always the Wrinkle City Gazette. Comes out once a month, and it's posted to the website. It also has its own website, wrinklecity.weebly.com. And if you check that out, you'll have some fun. Anyhow, please donate to keep the show on the air. Please tell your friends about the show. We put out the information at no cost to Ira and Open Eyes Network and LNM Radio Network. We put that out. It's free. I don't want to be paid for it. I want to be able to help people. And that's what we're doing. So with that, Ira, that's all I have this week. And we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you so much, Stu, for everything that you do. Everybody out there, have a great week. Be safe. We'll talk to you again real soon.